please come lie on your back. And you just settle in. I mean, for me at times, it's just the ecstasy of being able to just lie down. Give up the work, the tasks. Even if there are things I need to think about, I quiet everything else down so that I can really attend to what I need to think and create a different way in. Listen to your breathing. The floor gives you feedback. Gives you feedback. So you're perceiving right now in the very beginning your contact. I always suggest to look for areas that are more pleasant for you. You like that more. So that's what you're directing your focus, your attention towards. That's what I want to find more of, not that other stuff. How many times do we go to a restaurant when we did and we go, no, I don't want that, I don't want that. We're thinking what we don't want. Can we think of what we do want? Can we change our focus, our attention to where we want to go, what we want? And listen to the breathing. And it's your breathing. And let it be passive. So for some that I think the back might be more available for today, I'm going to start you on your back. And if I'm starting with one specific way of beginning, if for you that's not as available or comfortable, make the reverse, but stay with it until I change, and then you would compare the other side. It's really important in this specific lesson because by doing so little in either of these two positions, I trust you're going to feel something really that your nervous system perceives. That's pretty interesting. And because it's going to be so small and so slow, it's almost negligible, any doing. It's rather allowing. Very slowly, place your left hand underneath the small of your back on the left side. The palm of your left hand is face down. And you can slide your left hand for you where it's easy and comfortable, so it's going to stay there, as far under the left side of your lower back, maybe even crosses your spine, but only if it's really comfortable and you can rest there. Yes, and some of you actually lifted your pelvis a little bit to do that. Now, if it's not comfortable to keep your legs long, then you bring a foot to stand. But if you can keep the legs long, you do that. What's the difference? So let's feel for a minute. The left hand is resting not at the pelvis. You don't want to feel the bone structure of the pelvis, nor do you really want to feel the ribs. The only thing your fingers might feel is if they're inserted far enough is your spine a little bit. So feel the difference if you have your foot standing or your feet standing. Can you feel that there's more weight pressing into that hand because your back got longer? And with the legs long, it created a little bit more of an arch. So you can either go with the legs long and rest often, bringing the hand out, and I'll have you do that often, or you do stand a foot because you are knowing you're doing it for a reason that gives a little bit more ease and comfort. So you can pay attention to this other subtle stuff. Now very slowly, you just rest your right hand where it's resting. Maybe it's long on the floor beside you, and your head is in the neutral. And right now, you're going to keep your head quiet. It's not going to start rolling or moving all about. It's just sort of quiet. And now a very small movement, about 1/8 of an inch, 1/4 of an inch. So that's tiny. you create a little bit of constraint. Your left hand is behind the small of your back, so you're leaning on it a little bit. And begin to slide your left elbow down 1/8, 1/4 of an inch. Rest there. And then bring your left elbow back to whatever this neutral was you started at. And then do it again. Slide the left elbow down 1/8, 1/4 of an inch. The smallest you can do it is the best. And then you rest there. And then you slide it back. And you do that about 3 or 4 times. And as you do them another time, but resting each time, start to travel through you. Well, what's changing? What about the length in my neck on the left side when I take my left elbow a little down and then I slide it back? Does something change in a relationship? Or does your left shoulder blade slide a little bit on the floor as a result of the left elbow initiating 1/8 of an inch, 1/4 of an inch? But that's it. And that's tiny. Good. Now the next time you bring your elbow back to neutral and you've done it 3 or 4 times, then I'm going to have you do an accompanying movement, an auxiliary movement with this, but it's going to be congruent. Now, for those that have difficulty in just letting your head rest on the floor and you yourself allow the back of your head where it's resting on the floor to translate or slide or be dragged a little to the left as you slide your left elbow a little down, the head follows, simultaneous, an equal amount. The left ear goes a little closer, following the left shoulder. And then you come back. Now when you do it, because it's a small amount, how do you breathe? And what's different? You do this 2, 3, 4 more times. What's different as you slide your left elbow down and you allow the head now to translate? You rest there. And then you come back. Well, there's the question, how do you initiate the movement in how you breathe? And when you return to neutral, how do you breathe? What aspect of the breathing pattern did you awaken to? And where was there movement that was different? Well, let's go back and compare. This time, don't have your head translate following the left elbow down. Simply let it be. And go back and just think, it's my left elbow, 1/8 of an inch sliding down on the floor. What happened to my elbow? Did it bend 1/8 of an inch more? I rest there and I come back. What's different? Maybe you do it again just to sense, where is it different, the sensation? And then you come back. And then once again, allow your head to translate an equal amount simultaneous as you slide your left elbow down, and then you come back. Where do you discern there's a difference? Could it be in your ribs? Good. And then slowly remove your left hand, let it lengthen beside you, and just rest. Notice, is there any subtle perception that your contact on one side compared to the other feels a little different? A little different. And once again, bring your left fingertips to rest underneath the left side of your lower back. And you discern for you, your shoulder, your sense of ease, because you see, I'm going to rest here like that. You're going to discern how far you insert your left fingers. You'll be lying on your fingernails. The pads of your fingers are towards the floor. And now this time, keeping the head quiet, can you slide your left elbow on the floor up 1/8 of an inch, 1/4 of an inch, and rest there? And then bring it back down. And you rest, and then you think about doing it again, and you do it again. You draw the left elbow on the floor, sliding an eighth, a quarter of an inch up. And what changed? Do you feel something different in your neck? Did your neck get longer or shorter on the left side? And then you slide it back to its neutral. And you do that again, because by the third time you're starting to go, where do I feel the biggest difference? Even though it's tiny and it's subtle and it's slow, is it in my neck or is it someplace else also? Is it just on the left side? Do I discern a difference also on the right? And then you come back. Now this time, you pause. If you need to take the hand out, you do. Yeah. Yes. You see, I pause. And after I say it, then I notice several people start to lift their pelvis, remove the hand, and rest. And again, insert your left fingers behind your lower back. And do the movement again of sliding the left elbow up, but this time allow your head to translate, but translate your head so that the right ear slides a little bit closer to the right shoulder as you're sliding the left elbow up. It's all an eighth of an inch, a quarter of an inch, equal. And then you come back. You do it again. Where is it different? Is something happening in your ribs that's different than the first approximation? And if it's happening something subtle maybe in your ribs, you slide the left elbow up and the right ear follows the right shoulder to the right. Do the ribs on the left side seem to be getting a little longer? And the ribs on the left side seem to be getting a little longer. And the ribs on the right side, are they according together a little bit? And if that's happening, is there a shift in your pelvis? Or is there the slight faintest idea that maybe one leg feels like it's getting a little longer than the other? An eighth of an inch? And how do you breathe when you do this? And then you pause. You let that go. You let the little rippling effect of that variation quiet. It's also, I have this wonderful gong, and when I hit it, I listen to the overtones, and then I wait. I let them subside. Sometimes I hit again and again and again because there's like a symphony of overtones playing. But you let that quiet. So as you begin again, the left hand behind the small of your back, don't do the translation of the head to the right. Just let the head be quiet and slide the left elbow up an eighth, a quarter of an inch, and then back. Where is it different? You do that again. Where do I feel? I sense something feels different. And then compare it. Allow your head to translate to the right as you slide the left elbow up and feel, there's the difference I perceive. You're measuring, and through that measurement, your nervous system is perceiving differences, and you're beginning to learn and integrate. But the minute we start to override and we think, that's what I'm supposed to do. Yeah, that becomes a compulsion. And then it's interfering, it's mitigating our ability to feel because we're just in a habit. So you go very innocent and naively. Good. And then take your left arm out and totally rest. And then once more, place the left hand underneath the small of your back on the left side. And now this time, you're going to begin to compare. Once, you're going to take that left elbow down, back through the neutral, and then up. It's like going to make this lovely, slow, small movement, sliding a little down, through the middle, up, through the middle, down, so that each time you get to the destination, you rest, and then you begin again. And then compare it with the other. If you were allowing your head to translate this first round, then quiet the head from translating so that you can compare the difference of the sensations and but get a better understanding of where those sensations are. Are they in your neck? Are they in your ribs? Do they awaken more in your pelvis, in your breathing? And if you begin to sense, because it's so small and subtle, I think that's what's happening, you can actually do a little bit more of it to corroborate, I think this is what's happening. So you actually begin to validate what you think you're feeling. But in a sense, it could be also invalidating because you might go, that's not it, or it is it. Does one leg get longer? Does the pelvis shift from one side and then it doesn't? And then leave that go. Take your left arm away, lengthen it. If both arms were resting at one point long beside you, then compare. Right arm resting long, left arm resting long, and compare. Once you pull the arms out. Or whatever the position is, compare how those hands are resting. Does one shoulder blade feel a little bit more in contact with the floor? How you breathe on the left side compared to the right. Does it feel a little different? And you totally rest. And then very slowly, roll onto your belly. When you get to your belly, place your right hand down on the floor, place your left hand on top of the right hand. Turn your head to face the left so that some portion of your right cheek or face is resting on your left hand. In fact, if you opened your eyes, you don't have to, but if you did, you'd see your left elbow in front of you. And your legs are spread comfortably. And for those that are on your back and you're going to imagine on your back, please imagine. You could even put your hands or things in the position. So you're going to imagine, okay? And now, on your belly, with the right hand first, palm face down, left hand resting on top of it, your head turned facing the left, resting on the back of the left hand, legs spread, toenail side resting on the floor. Very slowly, with your left elbow, slide only the left elbow up 1/8 of an inch, rest there, and then return it to neutral. And then do it again. The left elbow slides up a small amount. And it's similar to when you were on your back, because now the left hand is constrained by your face resting on it. It's a little different orientation. You listen to your breathing. And you repeat that 3-4 times. But let me clarify. The right hand is on the floor. The right elbow is out to the right, bent. The left hand rests on top of the right hand. And you turn your face so that the right side of your cheek, your face, is resting on the back of the left hand. There you go. That's it. Good. And now you, again, it's the left elbow, you slide up, and that's all you're doing. And then you slide it back down. Is the distance on the left side of your neck feel like it gets longer or shorter when you've slid the left elbow up and then you slide it back down? And then you stay like that. And now every time you want to slide that left elbow up a little bit, think that you are sliding or translating the back of your head, 1/8 of an inch. The back of your head is going a little bit more in the direction of your right elbow behind you as you slide the left elbow up. And then you return, head and arm. And then you do this variation where the head is translating away from the left elbow that's sliding up, 1/8 of an inch, but the head is doing the same amount, 1/8 of an inch. Do your eyes look up a little bit? And then the head comes back, the elbow comes back. And where is this different? Is the distance of your left side of your neck changed? And is there more sensation in your ribs? What's happening on the ribs on the left side when you do this compared to the ribs on the right? And is there the subtlest indication that your pelvis just rocked someplace? Did your pelvis want to rock to the left or to the right when you do this? And then you come back. That's it. And you listen to how you breathe when you do it. And then you pause for a moment. And now, with the head just being quiet and passive, go ahead and slide your left elbow on the floor a little down, 1/8 of an inch down away from you. But the head, everything else is passive, it's quiet, it's neutral. And you return the left elbow to its neutral. And you do that again. You slide it down the smallest amount. You rest there, you bring it back. What's different? And then you go, well, I want to compare. So you're going to slide now your left elbow 1/8 of an inch up, but keep the head quiet. So you can go, okay, what do I feel in the left side of my neck? And then I bring my left elbow through the neutral and I slide it down 1/8 of an inch down. What's different? And right now the head's quiet. It's just resting on the back of your left hand. You're just going, It's just the elbow. 1/8 of an inch up. Then it pauses, it slides back, and then it goes 1/8 of an inch down. It rests there, and it slides back. Does one side feel like it's getting a little longer or shorter or areas? And then continue that variation, but now add the head in so that the head wants to follow either towards the same amount simultaneous as the left elbow slides down 1/8 of an inch, the head would follow. And then as you slide the elbow through neutral and slide the left elbow up 1/8 of an inch, you allow the back of your head to slide away in the direction of the right elbow. Or maybe you just notice your head rocks up a little bit. But it's resting on the left hand. 1/8 of an inch. You start to ask, what's happening in my ribs? I'm comparing the ribs on my right side compared to my left when I go this way or I go that way. And here's another question. What happens to the other elbow? You're initiating with the left elbow, whether it's going up, pausing, or down and pausing. But in relationship to the right elbow, is there a passive movement, responsive? And then you go, oh, Well, then what might be happening in my pelvis? And then leave that all alone and roll to your back and rest. Now, you might say, well, all we've been doing is initiating with the left elbow the whole time. Just notice what you notice. If one shoulder blade is lying a little flatter, if one side is lying a little flatter, if one arm feels longer than the other, if one side of your face feels different, or one leg. And for some that were exploring this variation yesterday using the right elbow, it was pretty dramatic. How could so little create so much shift? I don't know if that's your experience yet. Put your left hand behind the small of your back. And just to revisit what you did in the very beginning when you were on your back, allow your left elbow to slide a little down and then a little up without the head really responding. It's just quiet. It's the absence of pressing it or forcing it to not move. It's just forgetting about it, so to speak. The things that we normally do, but you're doing it with an intention. And then after you've done that a couple of times to discern, oh, is it clearer? Is it easier? What I'm feeling, where I'm feeling? Is it different when I slide the left elbow down compared to when I slide it up in what I feel on the left side of my neck? And then add in the translation of your head. That would seem the most, I'm going to say, congruent. And if there's a difficulty in translating your head that you notice, I think I'm rolling it more. My nose is rolling more to the left or to the right. Then use your right hand to place it behind the fullest portion of your skull. The right elbow would be out to the side. And let your right hand carry your head, translating it 1/8 of an inch. When the left elbow goes down, you allow your right hand to take your left ear a little closer to the left shoulder. You just use your right hand to help translate the head. And then when you take your left elbow up 1/8, 1/4 of an inch, use your right hand to translate your head, right ear closer to the right shoulder. So it's clearer that I'm translating versus rolling. And is your pelvis moving? Especially when you use the translation. And then rest. Listen to the breathing and anything that gets your attention. Or if it's just, whoa, I'm just lying and But notice what you notice, even if some of the things I'm suggesting may not be your experience. Honor what you're experiencing. Is the floor getting flatter or you're getting softer on the floor? And then roll back to your belly. Place the right hand down on the floor first, palm face down. Place the left hand on top of the right hand. You turn your face to the left, so it's the right cheek again, lying on the left hand. And once you get there, just do this subtle little movement. Rock your pelvis a little to the left, a little to the right, a little to the left, a little to the right. And when you do that with your pelvis, is there the subtlest little movement in your elbows? Do your elbows shift on the floor? Maybe one moves a little up and then one moves a little down. And then if I said, slowly rock your pelvis where you think it would be the most efficient so that you could begin to slide your left knee on the floor upward into what we call the frog leg or the baby leg position, to rest there. That's it. And as far as you want to draw your left knee up to and you're going to rest there like that. And notice that when you do this, your left hip came away, the front of your left hip came away from the floor. The back of your left hip went closer to the ceiling. If there's any difficulty for anybody and you need to put a little filler underneath the front of your left thigh, left hip to help support it there, you can do that with a little hand towel, a little pillow. If you don't need it, you don't need it. It's an option. And now very slowly, in this position, begin to take your left elbow and slide it a little bit down, 1/8 of an inch down, and then through the middle and 1/8 of an inch up. Notice, if I didn't say, let your head be quiet, did you automatically start to let your head move in this translational pattern? Or did you go, oh no, I didn't, you didn't tell me to? And then you compare. Keep my head quiet so that my head is not going to move while I'm still moving the left elbow. A little bit. Up, pause there, through the middle and down, 1/8 to 1/4 of an inch. So it's so small, it's almost negligible. And begin to discern what's the difference when you slide that left elbow a little up compared to when you slide a little down. Is there a shift in your pelvis? Does that left knee on the floor slide a little bit? Maybe it folds a little bit more or it opens a little bit, 1/8 of an inch. Passive response versus doing. And then very slowly, hear what I'm going to ask. How would you organize? Everything stays the same, but you're going to change your head to turn and look to the right so that the left side of your cheek is going to lie on your left hand. This is a bigger twist. For some, it might be a little difficult. So you just do what you can. You created a little twist, and where do you feel the twist? Now again, it's the left elbow. The left elbow, begin to again slide that left elbow a little up. Stay there. Slide it through the middle. Slide it a little down. And feel the responsiveness through you everywhere. Because it's 1/8 to 1/4 of an inch of a response that's rippling through you unless there's some kind of an emergency brake you've put on. You just listen. Where is there this subtle little shift that's moving, undulating, but it's so small, it's almost negligible. Yet, it's that 40 percentile of the Weber-Fechner stimulation that you can begin to discern, wow, I do hear that, I do sense that. And begin to pay attention. As the left elbow slides a little down, does the right elbow respectively go a little up? Not because you do it, because it's happening. And as you take the left elbow a little up, does the right sense like it's going a little down? And then very slowly, lengthen the left knee down long. Rock your pelvis to the left, slide the right knee up into that baby leg, frog leg position. And then slowly lift your head just enough so that you can change over your hands so that your left hand is on the bottom and your right hand is on top, and then place your left cheek back on now your right hand, resting in this position. And now, with your right elbow, begin to slide your right elbow a little up, but keep the head quiet. And then a little down. It's 1/8 of an inch past neutral, or 1/4 of an inch. But beyond that, that gets bigger. That might move it beyond that 40 percentile of Weber-Fechner. So just small and slow. And notice what happens in my entire right side that's different when I slide that right elbow 1/8 of an inch up compared to when I slide it 1/8 of an inch down. And then begin to welcome and invite your head to participate, where you don't just go, be quiet. You go, no, no, no. As I take my right elbow down, which direction would I want to take my head to translate? It'll slide a little bit on your right hand, your right forearm. And then when you allow the right elbow from going 1/8, 1/4 of an inch down, back through the neutral, to go 1/8 to 1/4 of an inch up, where would your head want to go? Would the back of your head start to go a little bit in the direction of the left elbow, simultaneously and an equal, small, slow amount? And begin to play that pattern. And begin to notice what your pelvis is doing, or your ribs, or how you breathe. And if I said, as you're doing this movement, if there was a little bit of awakening that in one of these directions of what I'm initiating with my right elbow, my right knee would either come a little closer or slide a little further away, what pattern would awaken in you? And there could be a couple of patterns. One pattern could be, as I take that right elbow a little up, it could either be that the right knee follows it, or it might be that the right knee wants to lengthen a little bit away. You don't judge it. You notice what first awoke in me. And you might notice, oh, but wait a minute. When I take the right elbow a little bit down, does the right knee want to come closer to the right elbow, or does the right knee want to go away from it? Is it the same pattern I felt when I was taking the right elbow up? Is it different? Is it the same? And then slowly, as you are playing with the right elbow now, a little up, a little down, discerning if I'm going to have my head be quiet because I want to feel where that's different in comparison to allowing my head to rotate. Slowly lengthen your right leg down long, but keep the movement going. And then you keep the right leg long. Maybe the pelvis has to rock back onto your belly. And then let that all go and roll onto your back and rest. Notice your contact when you get there. Was it a rolling that you could constantly feel you and the ground? There was no plopping or flopping. Or maybe there was. Listen to your breathing, your contact. And then place your right fingers underneath the small of your right back. And again, you can discern, do the right fingers, the right hand go as far as the left or not as far? Because you are monitoring for you. where it's comfortable and easy enough. If it's difficult to get the hand underneath the small of the lower back, a modification would be to place the hand on your belly that would be equal to the lower back, but the elbow needs to be resting on the floor. That's a modification. It's a little different, but it still is viable. And then slowly, with your right elbow, let the head be quiet. Slide the right elbow up about 1/8 of an inch, and then let it come back to neutral. Do that another 1 or 2 times so that you can pay attention. Well, if I keep my head quiet, what happens in the neck on my right side? Does it feel like it's getting longer or shorter? And then keep the head quiet, but slide the right elbow down 1/8, 1/4 of an inch, and rest there a moment. Bring it back to the neutral. Slide it down again. Just to discern what happened to that same area that I discerned was changing a little bit on the right side of my neck because I'm keeping my head quiet. Now what's happening is I'm taking that right elbow a little down. And then begin with your head quiet to alternate, but really slow, so that as you take your right elbow up 1/8, 1/4 of an inch, you rest there, and then you slide it through the neutral, and then you slide it down 1/8 and 1/4 of an inch, and you rest down there a little bit. Feel what happened in your right shoulder blade. And then slowly rest as you need, but begin to allow your head to do that translational pattern. And whether you want to use your left hand to help the head translate by putting the left hand behind the skull, or maybe you say, no, I don't need to. I can just drag the head a little bit. It's 1/8 of an inch. The back of my skull is going to slide on my mat. Maybe you notice your left hand slides down the mat 1/8 of an inch also, as the right elbow is sliding up 1/8 of an inch. Or maybe when your right elbow is sliding down and staying 1/8 of an inch below, your right ear went towards your right shoulder and your left hand shortened 1/8 of an inch on the floor up. And you keep playing with that and begin to notice, my goodness, what's happening in my pelvis? Does all of a sudden it seem like one leg got a little longer than the other? And then it shifted. But it's so tiny and so quiet and so subtle that it's almost elusive unless you quiet your attention. And pay attention, but in a soft, easy, open manner, so that you don't trigger any unnecessary muscular effort. The moment you feel you are anticipating doing something, you're interfering. Because it means you're already wiring into your nervous system, your brain, do that, which means you're not available to be surprised. You're measuring. It's the telling of differences. And in that, there's an innate quality of learning, and it's an innate quality of life. It's as subtle as discerning a rainbow, the colors of the rainbow, or a sunrise minute to minute, or a sunset. Feel for the spontaneity of the movement versus doing it. And then pause and rest. Listen to your breathing. And roll onto your belly. When you get to your belly, place your left hand down first, place the right hand on top of the left, turn your face to the right, left cheek will be resting on the back of your right hand, And just rest there for a minute. And rock your pelvis in such a way, easy, many, many little explorations to feel how the sliding of your right knee up into a frog leg position feels so easy. You didn't feel like it got traction or friction on your mat. You didn't hold your breath. You're looking for it. And you notice when you did that, and you can let the leg go again and do it again, did your elbows move? Not because you said move them, but it was a reciprocal, organic movement. And how did the elbows move? When the right knee, you rocked the pelvis. Where did you rock it? To the right? You rocked it to the left. And the right knee came up into this frog leg, baby leg position. What happened to the right elbow? Did it go down or did it go up? There's a subtle movement. Where did your eyes go? These are the subtleties we start to pay attention to. And then slide the right leg down long. Keep your head to the right. Rock your pelvis and do it in such a way that now, even though it's different, you want to slide your left knee up on the floor in the baby leg, frog leg position while your head is to the right. It's a bigger twist in your spine. What happened to your elbows? Which elbow slid up? Which one slid down? Not because you did it, but because it was a passive responsive relationship, an innate organic movement. And begin to do that. Once, slide the leg down long. Notice what happened in your elbows, in your head. Then rock your pelvis and slide the other leg up. What was the responsiveness? Yeah. That's it. Good. And then once, stay with your head to the right and your right knee drawn up. The two variations of the head are one, keep it quiet, and the other one is let it translate. You get to choose which one you're going to start with, but begin slowly with your right elbow. Slide the right elbow down 1/8 of an inch. Pause there. Slide it through the neutral and slide it up 1/8 of an inch. Do that a few times, discerning whether you're letting your head be quiet and what's the difference from when you allow your head to translate. Going in the opposite direction the elbow is going, or the same direction. If I'm sliding my right elbow up, maybe I take my back of my head towards the left elbow. But what happens if I take my face towards the right elbow? Which one was the first pattern you came up with? They're all possible. But there's often a question in training programs that says, what is the most organic for the human skeleton? Now, if I said to you, begin to go back and forth, you can move your head, turning it from the right to the left. But if you start to think, once I'm going to slide the right knee up, then I'm going to let that go and I'm going to slide the left knee up. Begin to pay attention. What happens in your hands, your arms, your elbows, and where you choose to move your head. Your pelvis is rolling. And if you are a tiny little one, and we have someone who has a few hours old new grandchild, they're very soon beginning to wire this pattern in. It'll take them within the first year, but it'll happen before the first year. Can you begin to recognize you could start to creep a little bit? You'd start to locomote yourself a little bit. And what about your shoulder blades? And then very slowly, use this movement to allow you to give up some of the constraints and find how you would roll via a side to roll to your back and rest. I think one of the things in Feldenkrais is that we're more interested, more focused on allowing versus an intentionality to do it. Because an intentionality to do it means it's already something we've either wired in or we were told we should. But allowing gives you, your brain, your nervous system, the freedom to find your way in. Because I can share with you that some of the patterns you played with bringing the frog leg up, but the head was in the opposite direction, for many it's sort of like, ooh, that's a greater twist and I can't stay here long, but it's okay. And other people, they think, oh my God, you just got me. You're speaking right to me. Because somewhere in their spine there's a specific scoliotic curve, and it's like, oh, that's so easy. And another's like, really? So it depends. But they're all possible. And the more that you can bring these possibilities into your repertoire, you'll have your preferences, you'll have what feels easier for you. But as long as you can still play with these possibilities, then your availability to stay more resilient, more flexible, and more potent and vital are assured. Notice your contact with the floor. Listen to your breathing. And in order for something really to begin to integrate, we can dream it, we can explore it in our imagination, but it's really important to transition in gravity to come into the vertical. So that then, in a different relationship to gravity, we get an opportunity to experience some of the potency of what our skeleton offers. The ability to be in gravity without feeling the compression or the weight, the pressure of gravity that we're always in a gravitational field, in any position. So feel how you're resting on the floor now, if you haven't come up yet. Feel what has given over to the floor that may not have given over to the same degree when you started. And you've been on your back, you've been on your belly, you've been rolling to get from one to the other. Slowly begin to transition yourself to come up in the vertical. Take your time. Listen to how the rest of you passively, responsively comes along. And in your own time, taking the time to come into the vertical, you just rest, standing. And then you notice. Don't interlace your hands, don't put them in your pockets. Let them be. And just notice what it's like in the vertical. And then slowly, standing, take both hands to rest behind your lower back. And now, take one elbow a little up and then a little down. What's the other one doing? And what are you doing? Are you shifting weight? Are your ribs starting to side bend if you allow your head to translate? Just make it easy. You can do 1/8 of an inch or you can make it bigger. The choice is yours. Can you feel how your shoulder blades are sliding over the ribs? And then do it with your hands in front. Just bring your hands in a similar position on your, what would be equal to what the small of your back is, and do it that way. It's different, but do it. Ruthie Alon does this wonderful thing with the pum-pum-pums, with holding your hands behind your back like you just did, holding your hands interlaced in front, and then let your arms totally rest long beside you. And begin to just take a walk and feel as you walk. Just notice if we walk really slow, and like we say in that Feldenkrais zone, everything is just dreamlike and but then come back into life. Start to move incrementally a little faster. And I always say, let your pelvis move. And if we are so busy holding our belly in, you're not letting your pelvis move. So you don't push the belly out, you just free it. And then you walk a little faster with an intention. And, I can't use that saying anymore, like, well, you're rushing for the metro or you're rushing for the bus, you're rushing for the plane, because most of us aren't anymore. But you're coming back into life. Notice if your arms swing a little freer, a little easier. Your shoulder girdle feels a little nicer. Your breathing, or you. Enjoy that sensation. And enjoy the day.